Hi everyone, good afternoon. Great to see you, or at least partially. So I can see more and more people are joining, although I can see your faces. Thank you to everyone who decided to join us in this beautiful Friday afternoon to listen a little bit more about what is there to come in the Celius community future. My name is Nicolas Kroll and I'm currently the CEO at Celius. I recently took over the role, as some of you might have heard. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what is there to come in the ecosystem under the new management and with the changes that we plan to do. So we decided to start 5 minutes later so that everyone has a chance to join us. The webinar is streamed on all of our social media platforms. So if there is someone you know who might be interested in listening to what I have to say today, either share them the link now or you will have a chance to do so later, since we are going to publish it on our YouTube channel. So how about we warm up a little? So I can see many people are started to say hello. So how about you write a little bit about who you are, what you do with Sylius, or who you work for? As I said, I'm Nicolas and I work at Sylius at the moment. I can see some of the familiar faces. Hi Oliver, hi Kevin, hi Radu. Hi, SMSP. I don't know who you are actually, but yeah, hello. Hi, Ibis and Piklo Eiffel, if I pronounce it properly. Hello. Hi to everyone. Okay, I think we are good to start. So, as I said, today I'm here to tell a little bit more about what is there to come in Celius. And by Celius, I don't only mean the Celius as a GitHub product, but Celius as a whole ecosystem. So there's quite a lot of things that we have planned, and I'm super happy to tell about everything that is there to come. But before we start, wise men say that in order to know where you are heading, it's always know where you come from. So we'll start with a little bit of history. I am sure that some of you might know that Celius was actually started years ago as a family project. So that was originally created by PWA, who was I would say the first contributor and the author of Sylius, who was in 2010 doing some kind of e-commerce project for his family business, and decided to do it with Symfony. The business didn't work after all, so a year later, Pavel decided to publish the work that he's done in the open source space so that he could get more people involved in maintaining it, since perhaps he was too lazy maintaining it all on his own. And it turned out to be a start of a great adventure, of Sylius in the shape we know it today. 2 years later, after various collaborators worked on the project worldwide, the version 1.0 alpha started. So the Sylius, as we know today as a product, actually started 10 years ago. It took some time before the stable version was released, and in 2013, year after the first official agency that was doing Sylius, it was called Lakion, was founded by Pavel and his partner. The agency doesn't exist anymore yet. This was actually the first stable business behind Sylius, even before the stable version of the vendor was released. In 2017 is the date when the 1.00 stable release was actually published. As far as I remember, it was September 15th. If I'm wrong, someone might prove me on chat, but I'm quite certain it was September. And fast forward 1 year later, a launch of solution partner program started. And actually, at least in my opinion, it was the beginning of everything great we know about Sylius today. At the current moment, we have around 70 agencies that work with Sylius worldwide, that drive big chunk of the community, which is also quite significant, as most of you might know. And earlier this year, like 2 months ago, there was a new management structure that came into Sylius. So Paweł decided to sell his shares to both Damian Murawski and myself, Nicolas Kroll, who were quite active in the Sylius ecosystem for the past 7 years. And as of today, we have the pleasure to be in the management board, both with Damian and also with Paweł, continuing the great mission he started originally years ago. Before we move forward, I would like to tell you a little bit more about what this actually means on the business level, because there were some concerns about what is going to happen with Sylius, with this new management structure, etc., etc. So I would like to make a few things straight. It won't take long. So about the present. So what we have planned for Sylius is an evolution rather than a revolution. So we truly believe that Sylius is great as an open source project, and we would like to keep it this way. So there's not going to be any kind of rebranding and aggressive strategy change. So what we are going to do is the evolution over revolution, put it as simple as possible. So we will try to get what's best from what Sylius has learned in the past years, and take what's best about it, and potentially bring it to the next level. Also, there's not going to be any kind of merger between Bitback and Sylius. Many of you might know that both Damian and I are behind a company that is called Bitback, which is essentially an agency that was originally doing only Sylius projects. This has changed a little bit over past years, and since we acquired those shares, it doesn't mean that we are going to merge. So both Damian and I acquired the shares privately. We always wanted to have our own product-oriented company, not only be in the service business. So it kind of makes sense for us to diversify assets a little. And that all being said, there's not going to be any kind of monopoly game in the partner ecosystem. So we would like to collaborate over compete to other partners. So this is why I'm traveling this much, talking to all of you, gathering the feedback, and I would like to introduce a lot of collaboration in the ecosystem that might have been missing in the prior years, which was also frustrating for us as the leading Sylius partner. So since we already know what Sylius was, let's jump into what is Sylius today. Some of you might have noticed that we started to brand Sylius as an e-commerce framework, which we believe is closer to what Sylius actually is. Many people ask me, how are we going to compete against some other players like Magento, Shopware, Commerce Tools, etc., etc. And the short answer is that we actually don't want to compete to them, because if you take a look at what Sylius actually is, it is an open source rooted e-commerce framework that is based on great open source software with an outstanding developer experience that is ready to execute in any kind of online sales model. So if you take a look at it this way, Sylius has no competitors, so who should we compete against? So this is how we decided to position Sylius, and we will no longer call Sylius a platform, at least in our marketing activities. We would focus on promoting this as an e-commerce framework, because essentially this is what Sylius is. At the end, this is what we have done on our H1 tag on our website. So if someone asks you what actually Sylius is, the first answer you should give them is an e-commerce framework. So so what makes Sylius so great today? So before we jump into the next slides, I would like to tell a little bit more what Sylius actually is, because to many it might seem like Sylius is just an open source project that is maintained by a couple of developers, but it's far more than that. And what is Sylius built upon are currently not only the community itself, which is great, Consists of 6,000 Slack users, 7,000 GitHub starts, 800 contributors in the history, and many people that build outstanding solutions on top of Sylius on daily basis. There's also this open source product that most of you, if not all, already know. So our MIT-based open source project. Then there's the partner network, which consists of around 70 partners that are agencies, payment service providers, and hosting partners. And the partner network is still expanding quite aggressively. Then there are merchants, so around 4,000 stores worldwide, 1/4 of which is in France, which is essentially where Symfony is being developed, and we feel like this is part of the reasons. And those are mainly shops from SMBs, like up to enterprises. So there are some small shops running Sylius, but most of the businesses we know run in this medium size to enterprise segment, which is great because if you take a look at it as a whole, 4,000 might not seem like a lot, but there's quite a lot of valuable players in the Sylius merchants ecosystem. So next, there is the Sylius Plus license. So this is actually our revenue driver that drives the development of our project and us as a business. So for the most sophisticated users, we sell licenses that feature things like SLA support and some kind of modules for return management, multi-source inventory, partial order fulfillment, loyalty system, multi-store, and access control layer. And then last but not least, there is the Sylius plugin store, which is the place where we publish our integrations. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit more about the plugin store because I presume that not everyone even is aware that there is such a store in the Sylius ecosystem, but that's going to change. All right, so what comes next? So in order to understand what is about to come, it would be worth to understand how did we plan everything that you are going to learn about later today. So as you might know, we've been in the Sylius ecosystem for quite some time. So we've been with its ups and downs, and we kind of know what is great and what is not so great about Sylius. And we have this kind of mirror experience to Sylius as a product company because there's slight difference in building a product and also implementing projects on top of that product. So we kind of have this perspective, this perception, this customer's feedback. So at BitBack, we've been working with around 100 plus projects on top of Sylius that we did in 30 countries altogether, plus minus. We also developed quite a lot of valuable extensions in the ecosystem. There's around 60 people working at BitBack who know Sylius on various levels, not only on the development side, but also consulting, quality assurance, etc., etc. So we took all of that and we brought it to the internal team experience because, as I said, there is a difference in building projects on top of a solution. There is a difference in building the product itself. So we kind of, said to the internal team, hey, here's our experience, here's our opinion, what do you think about it, and how we could kind of find the sweet spot between all of that and plan a proper strategy. So obviously Sylius has a lot of great experience building the whole Sylius ecosystem. So what they did in the past years is impressive, especially considering the team size and the fact that Sylius has no investor behind them and is fully organically grown, which is a great thing because the first thing they took care about are their customers, their community, their core values, not that goal of pleasuring an investor. So we took all of that, merged it together, and then we took it to the ecosystem. So in the past month, I've been traveling like 1,000 kilometers to meeting with our community members, partners, clients in various parts of Europe. And this is actually not the first time I'm doing this speech, but I also try to get their feedback, as much of their feedback as possible, so that I could finally plan a proper strategy together with our team that we are capable of executing. And that is what is most important, is going to provide some value to the ecosystem. So the community, because there's the context that I'm going to focus on today. At the current moment, as I said, we have around 4,000 live online stores, around 1,500 daily installations, 11 million in total history-wise. We have around 1,000 translations according to our statistics, 6,000 users on Slack, 620 active contributors in the past year, and 7,000 GitHub starts. We hope that's going to change after today's webinar, obviously in our advantage. So first thing that we would like to introduce in the ecosystem is the possibility to join Sylius as an ambassador. So what this actually means is we are going to launch some kind of partner program for those people who are not having their own businesses, or at least their businesses are like one-man army, but they are very active in the Sylius ecosystem, and they are capable of driving our business and driving the recognition behind Sylius. And we would kind of like to reward those people with some kind of shared commission fee for sales, give them a better recognition among our social media, and provide them with any benefits we are capable of. So there's quite a lot of people who speak very kind of Sylius, and we somehow feel like we should reward those actions. So that's the thing that we would like to launch. It's going to be published on our website. So yeah, follow our social media so that you don't miss that time when we are actually going to run it. Big news, Celiuscon is going to happen this year. We already have the date confirmed, which is the 3rd of November. It's going to take place in Poznań, Poland. Some of you might know the venue. It's the same place that the annual Polish PHPers Summit is hosted in. So buckle up. We are going to announce it publicly probably in the next week or the one after. We are still working on the media announcement, but in terms of everything, every back office operation, we are already confirmed, and this is the date you can already save in your calendar. What we also planned are a bunch of new community marketing activities. So we would like to dedicate space at least once a week for some community announcements. This would mean that we are actually going to promote people who are very active in the ecosystem, like contributors of the month. We are also going to execute live streams from the core team. So everyone who wants to learn how to become a better Symfony Sylius developer might actually listen to those open sessions, coding sessions of our great team. I think there's a lot of outstanding stuff you could learn from those guys. And as you might have seen, we also return to some of our core activities like Month of Sylius. So we would like to keep the transparency as high as possible. I personally feel like transparency is one of the biggest selling points, one of the greatest things about any open source products, and that does also include Sylius. So we would like to do that more, and that was somehow missing in the past at least 6 months, and we would like to change that, and this is what we are already changing. More badges. So speaking of appreciating our community, we would give you the possibility to use some badges that might actually help you become more recognizable in the ecosystem. So I gave you just a few examples, like approved by Sylius or core team member, but this is going to go far beyond that. We are still working on on specifics, but I will talk to some of you, and I feel like this is somehow something you might use for your benefit. It doesn't cost us much to prepare, and why not doing so? Especially since, in my experience, budgets are quite important when you actually want to work with Celius commercially and sell yourself to as a Celius expert. So we should certainly do that. So you might use it as kind of dedicated, proven certification of a specific area of Celius you are experiencing. So there's the enhanced donor program. So as you might have seen, we already run GitHub sponsors, but it is not like something that's widely promoted. So the idea is that we launch a donor program that will give the possibility to fund some part of Celius to those people who are not able to contribute to Celius for whatever reasons. They might not have the experience, time whatsoever, but still they might to contribute at some point to Celius. We would use 100% of those money on extending Celius open source project and evolving it. So that's the idea. We are also going to promote donors among our social media. This also includes documentation and main README file of the project. So about the upcoming changes, so this is where it gets interesting. What is there to expect in the short term? What is going to be included in the next roadmap of the open source project? What we are going to focus on first is the closer collaboration and dependence on our beloved Symfony framework. So as you know, we are strongly rooted to Symfony, and it's also one of the biggest Celius benefits. There's no other platform that is this close to Symfony in the market, so we don't reinvent the wheel introducing our own standards, rather we depend on what's best in the ecosystem and what's best in the open source space. And this is how it's been for years for Celius. Obviously, things change in the tech space, so this means that we need to deprecate some stuff and change them a little, but I believe that it's in the best benefit of the community. So what could you expect in the next stable version of Celius? What's going to be deprecated and what's going to be introduced? So first, Winzu state machine. So Winzu was one of the original Celius contributors, and Winzu state machine is outstanding. Yet, since we would like to be more dependent on Symfony and Symfony standards, we decided that in the next version we are going to deprecate the usage of Winzu state machine and switch to Symfony workflow instead. We are obviously going to provide you with proper upgrade docs so that we could make the transition as smooth as possible. In terms of the root, the concepts behind both of those packages are very similar, so I believe there's not going to be this much difficulty in understanding how Symfony workflow corresponds to Winzu state machine, and in the switch itself, we will try to do it as painless as possible. The next big thing is the drop of Semantic UI and switch to Bootstrap itself. Semantic UI was great, but the project is not maintained anymore, and we feel like Bootstrap is more recognizable and more widely used by developers worldwide. Even backend developers know how to use Bootstrap, and this is not something you could say about Semantic UI. Me personally, having a tech background, I haven't heard about Semantic UI ever before I jumped into Celius. So I believe this was kind of a pain for any developer to work with Celius, to learn how Semantic UI works, and this made it a little bit harder to jump into Celius. So we kind of feel like switch to the Bootstrap is a great thing. For whatever reason, if you don't like working with Bootstrap, obviously you could also use Celius in a headless way. So this doesn't harm you at all. But in my experience, there's a lot of projects that still depend on the server rendered side way of doing stuff, which is also totally fine. And this is why we decided to switch to Bootstrap instead. Also here we are going to provide you with proper upgrade docs. We are going to make the switch process as transparent as possible, so that you could see every progress that we've made before we released it as a stable version. So yeah, so this is what the next big thing that you might expect. Another one is the deprecation of PWA. Something I feel like many will be happy about. PWA, history-wise, was also outstanding before this whole open API standard, PHP client or whatever programming language client generation era. PWA had like a very wide community of integrations that you could potentially easily wrap into Celius and execute with them. The reality was that many people didn't even know how they worked under the hood, because PWA was too abstract on top of Celius and was super difficult to understand for many developers. This is what we are also willing to change. So we are going to introduce our own way of integrating payment service providers, which means that we are going to most likely stick to the workflow and introduce a very simplified way where you could like wrap the SDK, execute a few actions here and there, and you would be free to use whatever PSP there is. Obviously, this is, I will remind you, this is 1.30 version, so it's not like it's going to be deprecated and removed from the ecosystem, but we are going to introduce two ways of integrating PSPs at someone, one of which is going to be deprecated. So you could expect that in the next version it's going to be dropped. So we are also currently working on a bunch of performance updates. Even though Celius was great performance-wise, stress test was never part of our acceptance process. So our outstanding performance is probably the reason of a very simplified architecture using best practices, etc., and being close to Symfony, which is also highly performant. But there are still some places we know Celius might use some updates. So yeah, this is what we are also focusing at the moment, so that we could actually use Celius with the most sophisticated and most demanding large catalog products. So another thing you might have observed already is the decreased number of open pull requests, something that Jacob Talgash, our team member, is working on very hard. So at the moment there is like 71, at least yesterday there was 71 open pull requests, and we would like to decrease this number a lot. If you remember how many pull requests there were like 3 months ago, this is quite a significant update. The next big thing that we are going to do are enhanced developer documentation. So even though Celius is super easy to start with for Symfony developers, we know that it might be much easier if we teach people by some examples. This is why we are going to switch our documentation to Gitbook. We already confirmed an open source license and provide you with some more cookbook examples, enhance the developer documentation with some good practices, give you some practical tips, and make it much easier for you to, or any developers you work with, to jump into Celius. The next thing is the user guide. So as you might know, there's no user guide on Celius yet. There's a bunch of tutorials on YouTube that you might use, but we would like to change that and make it part of official documentation, so that it is much easier to onboard users and people who actually will use Celius not only as developers. So next thing is a better API coverage. So no surprise, yeah, we extend the API platform coverage. We add more and more API endpoints that you might use based on your feedback and what we already know that there is left to cover. So Celius 2.0, this is something that many people might be quite afraid about, especially considering what has changed in the ecosystem when other platforms switch to upper versions. We would like to learn from their mistakes, and what Sylius 2.0 is going to be our is Sylius 1.13 minus deprecation. So we are going to, the Sylius 2.0 would be just a cleaner way of doing stuff in this new order that I previously presented. So the switch should not be this significant for everyone who follows our upgrade guide and is compatible with 1.13 already. So about the core team, this is also something that's been quite often asked, especially considering that some people left Sylius in the past months. But the truth is that they left Sylius, but they never left the project. And the core team at the moment consists of our Sylius business unit team members and outstanding volunteers. Actually, in the past months, more and more people started to be interested in joining Sylius team, and so Sylius core team, and actually some joined already. You might have also seen that in the past days we switched at the bottom of our website, and it no longer says that Sylius is made with love in Poland. There are also some other flags, and some more are going to be introduced in the next months. This is what I can tell you already. We are also going to create a dedicated space in our README and on our website where we are going to introduce people from the core team and the areas they are responsible for, who they work for, so that there is no misunderstanding on who is maintaining Sylius and why there's this many people from this many companies working on this project. So Truth Being Told is an open source project, so we are willing to welcome everyone who is willing to participate in the project and is realistically providing us some value. So more on that in our social media in the upcoming weeks, but this is what I can already tell you about. So in the longer perspective, we are also considering introducing some new optional features that are yet to be confirmed. So we've always heard that Sylius is lacking some kind of basic features, which is true. But if you think about Sylius as an e-commerce framework, in many cases, you want Sylius to be very lightweight. So we kind of try to figure out what's the perfect sweet spot between all of those approaches. So we kind of figure out that we might provide Sylius with some basic e-commerce features that are optional. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more later on how we are going to do that. But what we are considering to come in Sylius is first the content management feature. So many Sylius projects work with external CMS, which is totally fine. And truth being told, this is also true for many other modules that are included in Sylius, like product information management features. So many stores manage product information in the back office, but some actually disable those features and delegate this to a PIM, external PIM system. So both of those approaches are valid. So the real question is when it actually makes sense to move forward with which. So we would like not to limit you with any, but rather give you an option. So use whatever is Sylius. If you need, you could customize it, you could adapt it to your needs. But if you need something more sophisticated, feel free to integrate it with our solution. This is what we are going to do with content management system too. It's not going to be very advanced, but it's going to be quite basic. But if you like to switch to something external, hey, feel free to use. You could use this part of Sylius as a proxy to your content management system. The next thing is Wishlist. So something that is like present in almost any e-commerce projects, but it's not like in everyone. So this is why it's also going to be provided as an optional feature. Advanced search, again, same story. So filters, facet filters, further search through the product catalog. Product bundle, same story. I feel like there's no need to explain it to anyone. And then there's the PWA support. So something we are already discussing with Vue Storefront. So not only will you have a chance to work with Sylius on Bootstrap, but if you want to use it in a headless way, and if you'd like to use something great that's already there in the open source ecosystem, you would have an option to use Vue Storefront. So how those are going to be available as options, surprise, surprise, they are going to be developed as official Sylius plugins. So the idea is that we give you options, but we also give you an example of what a top-of-art Sylius plugin looks like. So those will be maintained under Sylius organization. And there's already one plugin that we do this way. It's an invoicing plugin. So you have a chance to install it through the installation process. And if we move forward with those, we would like to do it this way. Still, those are yet to be confirmed. There are some serious discussions behind that. So any feedback on that is much appreciated. But yeah, the way we see it is that if we can do it like in a way that doesn't change anything, does not provide the PCs, but also provides a benefit on top of what's native, if you need it, then yeah, that we should go for it. This would also present people with the fact that this is actually not lacking some basic e-commerce features. They are just available as optional bundles, plugins, modules, whatever you call it. So about the community, how can we build a better community together? So because the community is all about people, all about collaboration, and even though there are some great community members already, they might not have the guidance on how they could contribute to Sylius ecosystem and what we could support them with us as the vendor. So here are a few ideas. So first of which are marketing activities in the ecosystem. Those include organizing meetups, webinars, etc. So anything creative that's already happening occasionally that you want to participate in, we would like to help you, providing you with proper guide on how to at least organize a meetup, organize a webinar, who you might reach to in terms of sponsorships, what are the local agencies, merchants using Sylius that might be interested in participating. We have this network, and if someone is willing to do any kind of this marketing activity, we would like to give them a push, give them support so that we could make it as easy as possible for those people to contribute also on the community level. So more recognition over our social media. So as I mentioned previously, we are going to dedicate a big chunk of our marketing resources promoting the activities among our social media, which means we are going to highlight people who contribute most to the ecosystem. We are going to promote their actions. We are going to just give you a space that you could use to give you some more social media appreciation, build a stronger personal brand in the Sylius ecosystem for everyone who is interested in doing so. There's a Slack channel that consists of around 100 people at the moment who are actively contributing in the whole community ecosystem. Actually, I made a typo here, but it's called a community pulse. As you can see in the screen, there's how is the top left corner is how the channel is named. But anyways, if you would like to contribute or be viral part of our community ecosystem, please join this channel, involve in discussions, introduce any ideas, ask for support. Let's make this channel brief, and yeah, feel free to connect with other great community members there. Another way you can contribute, simply give us a GitHub star. Actually, those GitHub stars don't cost you anything, but the more we have them, the better Sylius looks to potential pickers, and the better community it becomes if many more people start to join it. So as simple as that, just give us a start if you haven't done so already. Another one is write about us. So whatever kind of blog tutorial you think about it, just feel free to write it. And if you would like to publish it on our website, that's even better. You could always reach either to me or Olga, our marketing representative. If the content is valuable, we can post it on our blog and post you as the creator of such blog post. We could also give you some support in polishing the version of the text. It's much easier nowadays with tools like ChatGPT, etc., etc. So any kind of tutorial, any kind of thing you think about should be written about Celius that serves our benefit. We are happy to share it, even if it's on your blog or even if you wanted to write it on ours. Feel free to do so. Just reach us out. Something that's happening already, but yet I want to remind you that there is a victory channel where you could share the great work you do with Sylius. And if you do so, we would most likely reach you and ask if we could publish it on our showcase/case study section on Sylius website. So feel free to share anything you do with Sylius. Even small projects are appreciated. It's a better social proof that Sylius actually is working with some people, for some people, and there are projects that happen frequently live on top of Sylius. Another obvious contribution is the submit of pull requests. So there is a list of issues and discussions on GitHub. So since we already introduced some more agile processes of approving pull requests, so we are happy to welcome pull requests that contribute to our standards and provide value to the core. Again, the more of them you could provide, the better Sylius becomes. And if you are super active, we would be happy to promote you over our social media and give you the recognition and position you as a Sylius contributor or even Sylius expert at some point. Recommending Sylius to others, this might not be obvious, but if you know Symfony developers who are tired working with some other open source platforms and you feel like they might actually use Symfony, feel free to recommend us. Our whole ecosystem is recommendations driven. So the more you do recommendations, the more people are there in the ecosystem. The better Sylius becomes. As easy as that. If there is a chance that you could recommend Sylius to others, whether it's a merchant, developer, or whoever might be interested in using it, or whoever you feel like should use Sylius, feel free to do so. And that's all we can ask about. Participate in events, not only as an organizer, obviously, but also as a speaker, or even as a member of meetup group, or as a participant on some local meetups, conferences, etc., etc. So the more people participate in events, the stronger our network becomes. And after all, those events are organized for you so that you can join. So it would be great if you actually do so. So the next big context I would like to tell you a little bit more about is the Sylius store. As I mentioned, not everyone might have even been aware that there is such space in our ecosystem, and we would like to change it because it was not very active in the recent years. Even though it was doing just fine, we would like it to do much better. First thing we are going to introduce is the new store moderator role at Sylius. So previously, the store was maintained occasionally by our core team members, who, as you might imagine, might have had some better tasks to handle or some more important tasks to handle considering their experience. So we'd like to have someone dedicated to work on the Sylius store. This means that we will be able to list more plugins in our store. The idea is that we list plugins that remotely look like something that is acceptable to be listed, but not every Sylius plugin that is created in the ecosystem is listed as an approved by Sylius. You might get a chance to apply for such process, and we would like to make it also more agile so that more and more plugins can actually get this approved by Sylius badge. Also, quickly on the business side, what's going to change and what has already changed. So we have already hired a new DACH representative. You might have seen him on our Slack. Christian Florek is now taking care of our German language oriented communication. We are also in the ongoing recruitment for the French market representative, which is also quite significant, and considering how big the big part or chunk of our total business French market is, then yeah, that it actually makes a lot of sense that we have someone here at Sylius who takes care of this market. Before that happens, Przemek Połeć is going to handle the communication with all the parts of the world, and this is what he already does. If there are some Sylius partners here on participating in the webinar, so Przemek is the person to reach out to if you have any questions that are not focused on the DACH region, which Christian is responsible for at the moment. So in terms of Sylius Plus, just a few words. We are going to update the offer. So we are going to actually introduce the possibility to, this is actually something we've already done. We haven't announced it yet though. We will sell Sylius as feature-based license. So if you don't need Sylius Plus as a whole, but you just need a few modules like loyalty system, access controller, and multi-store, you don't have to pay for the whole license. You can just pick a few modules and use it in parallel with your community edition, and don't pay for the whole license. What you can see on the screen is a beautiful configurator where you could just pick a few variables that determine the pricing, and it's going to turn it into an offer. We try to make it as easy as possible. Tech-wise, Sylius Plus is already modular. So essentially, Sylius Plus packages are Sylius Plus is provided as a bunch of plugins, as a bunch of bundles. Upcoming features in the Sylius Plus license is the B2B module. So organization management, quick shopping, pricing list management, Elasticsearch integration, order management, wishlist handling, custom import, export, and queuing mechanism. This is all you will get with B2B module. We already have a working prototype that needs some polishing, and that we are already working on, and I think this is going to be available quite soon. Later comes, yet to be confirmed, is an advanced search engine, import, export, and queuing protocol support out of the box. Other subscription features, something very sexy nowadays in the e-commerce ecosystem. Product archetypes, so for those who would like to use Sylius as a PIM tool, they would get a chance to install a module for product templates. So it makes much more sense for them to use Sylius as a PIM and make the product information management, product data creation much easier. Then there's the digital product type. So we have a lot of great projects that use Sylius as an e-commerce that sells the access to some digital goods, which is quite a great e-commerce module too. And then there are some marketplace features, but if those will come, this is most likely going to happen next year. Beyond features, Sylius Plus modules will be listed in Sylius Store. So since there are plugins, you would have a chance to take a look what's included in our store before you decide to consult with one of our sales representatives. Sylius Plus will have an open developers documentation, even though obviously Sylius Plus will not be open source. We kind of feel like, hey, there's nothing we should be ashamed of, and we should show the developers what they could expect from our Plus license, and what before they decide to even consider buying them. I feel like this is another way we could take the transparency to the next level, also on the business level. So frequently asked questions. So things I already know many people will ask about or ask about in the past month. This actually sounds like a lot of things, and that's true. And whether we are going to make it. If you take a look at our history, you might recognize some similarities of actions we've been doing in the open source space when we've been working on Bitback. So to us, many of those things actually mean that we need to move things from one place to another, and this is what we are going to do, which makes it much easier to execute. We also have a great, very motivated team that consists of quite a few people who are willing to participate to such vision. So we're quite confident that we are going to make it, and this is why we are actually telling this much about it, because this is what we certainly know we could handle, and this is what we know that the ecosystem needs. How are we going to announce it to public? So this webinar is obviously public, but it's not like 1,000 people join it. So we are going to publish a public roadmap where we are going to describe all the features on the product level. We are also going to take a good care of the communication with our community on our social media and blog. So I strongly encourage you to follow our LinkedIn, Twitter, even Instagram, Facebook, join the Slack, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any important news that's happening in our ecosystem. When is this all going to happen? So most of those things are planned for this year. That's the short answer. If there was something not planned for this year, I already told you so. And as far as I remember, that was actually one thing about those marketplace features in the Celius Plus ecosystem. So this is what we are already working hard at Sylius together with our core team. And the goal is to have it developed by the end of the year. Preferably, those things should be ready for the Celiuscon. Is the core team going to change? Actually, yes, it's going to change, but in a way of there are going to be more people in the core team. So the current core team hasn't changed. So again, people who left Sylius are actually still in the Sylius ecosystem, but they work for their own businesses, which is great because they decided to spend their time and resources on participating to Sylius, and we would like more and more people to join the core team. So as I said, the joint core team possibility would be available for those most active contributors and for those who make a difference in the Sylius ecosystem. So that was kind of a lot of talking. Now is the time to ask any question you have. I will jump into the chat. And if you have any question, if you made it to the end of this video, now is a great time to ask them on chat. I already can see that there are some questions. When this webinar ends, will there be an opportunity to replay? Yes, this is something that we are going to share on our YouTube and on our social media. So again, follow our social media. I can see someone actually answered it from Sylius, so that's great. Francis, it's not clearly defined to remove Payum. No other solution is right now available. That is true. However, before we do so, we will provide you with proper announcement, blog posts, documentation, etc. So I can ensure that once we do this move, we will we'll do it in the most transparent way and provide you with a proper guidance on how to upgrade. So everything I already could have told you, I already did. So let it be the best proof that transparency is one of our strongest values. So any other questions you might have? Thank you, Loic. Thank you. And thank you for the great meetup you organized in Toulouse last month. By the way, if you haven't been there, just feel free to check the meetup Magma organized. There was like 60 people there. It was one of the greatest Sylius meetups I've ever been to. Is the Sylius Plus feature base? Will they have a public prices? No, they won't, because the price list depends on configuration values, so they are highly dependent on various factors. This means the factors are actually the GMV, obviously, the market, the e-commerce strategy the team uses, so whether it's a B2C, B2B, or whatever variation of those, whether they have an internal or external dev team. So we like to encourage people to work with our partner network. So if they decide to move forward with one of our official partners, they would get a better deal, etc., etc. There's quite a lot of factors that determine the pricing. So it's quite a common practice that if you want to close a B2B deal, you need to consult with our sales first. But they are happy to explain, elaborate on the deal's details and prepare the best deal in no time. Cool. 30 seconds for some more questions. If there are no other ones, we are going to finish this session. All right, so thank you for joining us, for listening to what I have to say. Great meeting you. Happy to see so many positive comments. And yeah, see you on Slack, see you on social media. If there's anything you want to ask me personally, feel free to reach me on Sylius Slack. I try to be as responsive as possible. And yeah, hope to see you on Celiuscon. Bye bye. Cheers.